How you guys doing? This is Nigel Birch, mental health and love advocate and creator of Everyday's Valentine's Day. This conversation is a collaboration between Mark, University of Toronto Scarborough, and Keeping It 100. And like I always say, love every day like it's your last. How do being one of the few Black men in a space of predominantly, white associates, how do you, it's a two-part question. One is, how do you, navigate that space? And can you talk about, thriving and surviving in that space? Like, what does that look like?
We, regardless of how much progression we've had over time, still need to be extremely smart about how we navigate. Because we don't have the number of forgiveness passes that I would say the rest of the population have. And that's just the fact of the matter. Mm-hmm. So I think that we also always need to navigate in a very smart way. I think that we need to make sure that we are very diligent about how we build out our network, knowing that privilege is going to be something that we need to fight for, and it's not at our doorstep again, like the rest of the population. So I think navigating this world is extremely important. We cannot sit back and think that we're going to get opportunities. We have to seize and take opportunity. And that was the one thing that I knew. I was hungry. I came out of the hood. I laugh and tell the young men that I mentor about why they're just right for this world of business. And it's like, very simply, it's, listen, if you have to fight to keep your lights on, fight to keep food, fight to stay alive, manage violence around you, all of these things, why do you think that you can't manage a P&L?
Transferable skills.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, what I had to learn, I mean, I learned it by experiencing it. Then I read, it's always good to experience something and then read about the thing that you experienced, because it's not abstract. It's in your muscle structure. You felt it, and I had to, I learned about survival and surviving inside these institutions, and I learned that survival is really about adapting to the norms of whoever has the power, and the history of that term. Like, I'm a big fan of Mobb Deep, and we were all about Mobb Deep when, it was survival of the fittest.
That's it.
Like, that's an anthem for young Black men on the basketball team going from school to school. Like, we're out there, and that concept is, it comes from Darwinism. It comes from Charles Darwin. It comes from like the deepest, most racist, most Eurocentric thinking, scientific thinking. Mm-hmm. And until you learn those things, you're like, I don't know. I like Mobb Deep, but I'm not sure if I'm down with this idea of surviving. And surviving, in my definition, is like, adapting to the norms of the dominant culture. Who has the power? How do I have to speak? How do I have not to have an accent? How can I walk in? Do I have to tuck my shirt in when I get into the room? That to me, that's survival. Mm-hmm. So knowing what the rules are and then trying to follow them, and sometimes knowing what the rules are and trying to break them in order to survive. But I like to contrast it to this idea of thriving, because survival, if I could track my trajectory, from maybe 12 to 25, it was about survival. And it was about, like, what's expected of me, and how can I meet those expectations, or how can I destroy those expectations and still survive in that institution, So my mentor helped me understand how an institution works and how people get rewarded for things that sometimes are harmful to them, which is kind of like a general life practice. And then for me, thriving really becomes about, once you understand the structure and once you've played the game long enough, thriving is about designing the terms under which you can be a full human, and understanding all of the rules and the power brokers and the players in it, and making a really conscientious decision to be like, this is how my life needs to look for me to be happy. So thriving for me is like, for some people, thriving is like, getting a promotion at work or being really popular on social media. And for everyone, it's different. But for me, thriving is about a sense of calmness, a sense of satisfaction, which sometimes for perfectionists, that's a hard thing to come up with, to be satisfied with something. And, and being okay with who you are. I think thriving is also about not trying to be something that you're not.
We all need, regardless of the color of our skin, I think as a Black man for sure, but me as a Black man, I think grew up with certain principles, and the word you used was negotiate. I think it is important for me to negotiate certain principles that I have, because thriving and surviving will get you only to a certain place. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to have to negotiate with yourself more so on how you're going to start to thrive. I think a lot of times as Black men, because we're surviving for so long, we think that the survival tactics are going to pay into the thriving tactics, and that's not necessarily the truth. Mm-hmm. So one part of that answer is like, yes, I did have to negotiate with myself, but not necessarily to repress anything, but how am I going to evolve? And the things that I may have seen as blockers, whether I'm Black or I'm not Black, I now need to figure out how am I going to embrace what the color of my skin is and go where I need to go. There's no longer the conversation of I'm not supposed to enter there because it's not fair. Mm-hmm. It switches in my mind to like, I'm going to enter there because I know that it's not fair. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's like, if that looks like, hey man, I got to stay up all night and break through those barriers, then that's what I got to do. So, I think the misunderstanding is that, let's just blow up and let's just get upset and kill what was already built. That's actually going to do anything if we're going to build it up exactly the same way. So I think for me, it's always been like, how do I disrupt what I'm doing and start to build a system on the side and change the principles and rules that are conditioning us to be this way, and set new conditions. So not only myself as a Black man, but like, and I use the word diversity, a diverse culture can start to build a new system. And I think it's super important when I say diversity, that diversity doesn't only mean Black. Mm-hmm. I think diversity means, and I know we're going off topic, but like diversity means like, if you come from, Alaska and you know where jerk chicken is, that's diversity. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's a meeting of the minds. But for me, that's always been the case of like, how do I not blow everything up and be rebellious? And I think there's a time for that. But then how do I interrupt and disrupt and build a new system?
You need at a certain time in life, I was very much just about surviving. I was just trying to survive. And, I had a lot of run-ins with police at one point. I had a lot of run-ins with just ignorant people. And I was taking that on. I was taking on every interaction. What I didn't realize was that I was taking on that energy with each interaction and storing it somewhere in me. And it was showing up in perhaps my diet being off, me not drinking enough water, me not, looking after myself, sleeping well. So the surviving part was all about the struggle. It wasn't until I started really trying to focus on wellness that I looked at, I can actually soar, I can thrive. And then you kind of learn, what do I need to survive? What do I need? What are the basic elements that I need? Gotcha. I need sunlight, I need sleep, I need rest, I need balance. And so I think they go kind of hand in hand, but for me, I didn't really recognize how to survive until I really got to working on thriving.
So for you, before we come back, because I think there's a second part to that. So what I'm hearing is that you were able to make a distinction from, physiological needs of survival versus
Yeah.
your mind creating this idea of what needs to survive in order to say, okay, these are the
Right.
differences, and then now I can clearly delineate what's next for me. Am I correct in saying that? Or
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because I was attaching me surviving to everybody else, to the world,
right,
and the way I
right.
was viewed in the world, you know.
Mhm.
Whereas when I got well in myself, those interactions started to lessen because I didn't take on what others thought of me or what the positions anybody tried to put me in. I was able to articulate my way through it,
Yes.
or to articulate them away from me. You know, I was able to get the higher ground
Mhm.
because I was looking at thriving. I'm saying you're not going to stop me. And an example of this for me would be, you know,
Mhm.
when painting came in my life, I had a band, you know, we were on the road. We had a van with like uh the A-Team, man, Scooby Doo and them, you know,
I remember.
we
I
lived in the van. Yeah.
remember.
We lived in the van and we worked out of there and we went where we could. We weren't really, you know, we weren't on the radio. We were just doing what we could. We were surviving, you know. And then I had this vision. Not only was the band just surviving, but other things in my life weren't at the best place for me. I had this dream, and I visioned myself painting, and I couldn't see what I was painting. I seen the back of the canvas. I just saw myself working, and I know that I felt better than I had felt, you know, in the longest time. When I had that vision, I woke up and I bought a sketchbook immediately. I did it because I've been searching for that this whole time, my whole art career. I don't know what I was painting, but I know how I felt in that dream,
Mm.
you know, and that was the beginning of me really thriving. That said, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do more than just survive. I'm going to live.